Fine. But I actually have, I mean, I wouldn't say they're direct questions, but like indirect questions that came up in the last week.
Oh, good. Yeah.
So, it's more like, I guess you could say like the tactical side of stuff. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so we are live. So welcome to another Run Wild with us. You know what? You can ask us anything. I'm Lisa Kastner. I'm the founder of Running Wild, and I'm here with Cecilia Kennedy, one of our fantabulous, both author and editors. And we're typically here with Ben, who just showed up. So we are here now with Ben, who's one of our also public authors and editors. And I'm sure we will be joined shortly by Peter. And we are here to answer any old freaking questions you may have. And seriously, like, we're all a bunch of goobers, and we're all incredibly like nosy and knowledgeable. So like, you could probably come up with like really goofy stuff, and we'll come up with an answer. It doesn't mean that it's good or right. It just means it's an answer. So I'm just putting that out there. So Ben, I was just telling Cecilia, like, this week I've gotten a lot of questions from our authors, actually. So if we don't get any questions, and by the way, if you're watching, I heavily encourage you to go ahead and toss your question into the comments section of whatever venue you're watching from. And what we typically do is we'll take turns in responding to those questions. If you're watching and you're watching the recording because it's not Thursday between 5 and 6 p.m. Pacific time or 8 and 9 p.m. Eastern time, you can still go ahead and put your questions into the comments section, because we actually do monitor to see like if any new questions have arisen, and then we'll address them in the subsequent session. So cool. But before I go off on a diatribe based on all the highly intellectual questions that I've received over the last week or so, how have you guys been? Like, have you guys come up with anything that you're like, ooh, I want to bring this up? I was, based on that look, that was called Lisa Shut Up. That's fine.
No, things have come up. Like, so blurbs, do you need them, and how do you get them? I often get that question.
Ooh, wow, that's a great question.
Yeah.
Blurbs, I would say they're better to have than not have, especially if you're an unknown. And you don't really need a big blurb. You can, I mean, just a small one of like, this is fantastic, Toni Morrison, right? Like, that's the kind of thing you can put on the cover, and that's the kind of thing that like a retailer will have your book outward facing, because it's Toni Morrison, right? Especially if you're an unknown.
Yeah.
Because it increases the likelihood that someone will be willing to pick it up. Actually, it also increases the likelihood, and this is based on talking to some of the independent retailers and bookstores that we partner with a lot. You know, all of their people who work for their bookstores, they work there because they love stories and they love books. So you're giving them an excuse to pick up your book, right? You want to give them that excuse. And yeah, because honestly, what a lot of independent booksellers will do is their salespeople will read new books, and then they'll basically promote them within the store. So any little thing like that can kind of help spread the word is really beneficial. Now, the follow-up question I typically get is, I don't know Toni Morrison. And usually it's a really whiny voice. And like there might be some booger crying involved, right?
Yeah. What if you don't know anybody famous?
Like, exactly. I don't know anybody. Why are you don't make me do this? Right. So here's the deal. You don't have to know them. You can easily just one, you can reach out to your network and see if anybody else does. Two, have some cojones and go look up people that you admire who you think would enjoy the book and ask them if they would be willing to check it out. Right? Mm-hmm. Now, yes, many will say, I don't have time. Mm-hmm. But a lot of them too, who will normally say, no, I don't have time. If you have mutual friends, and even if you don't get an introduction, but they see it like in social media, or, you went to the same college, which I know that sounds doofy, but still, right? And all that kinds of stuff, that can bring it over the edge from them saying no to saying, yeah, sure, send it over, right? Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean you're going to get a blurb, but it increases the likelihood. So don't take yourself out of the running by simply not trying, mm-hmm. right? You've got to at least try.
At what point do you start looking for blurbs?
I personally wouldn't start until you're done your editing with your editor and mm-hmm. you both sign off on it.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is I have seen so many authors, the voice actually changes mm-hmm. from all of the editing that's done leading up to production. Yeah. And you want to have the cleanest version, basically an advanced review copy version mm-hmm. that you can to get it out there. So Ben, what are your thoughts?
Well, the timing of it is usually after the editing is done, and we still have it in Google Docs. You can make a copy from Google Docs into a PDF as a reader copy, an advanced reader copy, and that's good. It doesn't need to go through production to be formatted to get a blurb. Mm-hmm. But as far as getting the blurbs, you got to ask. And tap into the writer friends, whether it's your MFA program classmates or the faculty, because if they can't do it, they know somebody who might. And we had an author who was all ready to ask Bobby Ann Mason to blurb his book, and he, through social media, he found the contact and asked her, and she was very polite about it and said, I just don't have the time to do it. But, I'm glad you asked me. It's an honor to be asked. I just can't do it right now. And that's victory. You got to call that victory because you reached out and you found her and you got the no, but it was a polite no and a connection and you understood. Mm-hmm. But you never know. There was a book called Killing Time in Iraq with Colby Bazell. And it went from his blurb into a book, and Kurt Vonnegut wrote a blurb for him. Wow. And I know he didn't know. I don't think he knew Kurt Vonnegut. I think he just asked him. And mm-hmm. from soldier to a writer with military background, he asked Kurt to write him a blurb, and it's in the book. And I'm sure it's a story about how it got there, but basically he asked him. Mm-hmm. And so that's the key. But your network is good enough. You can't say, well, none of my classmates, they've written a book and they published a book, but they're not famous. So what's the use? No, there's use in it because it's somebody else giving an opinion about your book.
And to piggyback on and expand on that, you don't have to have an MFA. I know we keep saying like college and MFA. It's just an easy example, right?
Yeah, right.
Of knowing other, creatives.
It could be your local book club, your readers club, your librarians.
Yeah.
Anybody.
And don't hesitate to, whoever your publisher is, don't hesitate to look at their catalog and see if there's anybody that you either, I mean, you don't have to admire, but that you think might be a solid, give a solid blurb, and then ask your publisher if they would reach out on your behalf, or you can reach out to them directly, right? I mean, like, one thing I heavily recommend anyone who is submitting their work anywhere is to go and reach out to people who've already been published by that publisher and find out what their experience has been, and if you know, what the results have been. Because, you know, if your whole goal is to become the next huge you know, New York Times best-selling commercial writer, but you've written a literary novella, probably not going to happen, right? So you know, and you're submitting to a an independent press that isn't with a major distributor, again, probably not going to happen, right? Because you're just not going to get the kind of visibility that someone with a major distributor would get, right? So it's that kind of stuff you want to make sure that you're clear on before you find a publisher. But it's the same thing with blurbs, right? Like, if you want this, you know, if you want this to get a lot of attention in certain circles, but you don't have, you're not a known entity, and you're not getting blurbs from anybody with a similar background, or who would gain traction with a similar audience, then you're probably not going to get what you want, you know? So, you know, always look at it from that eye, which I fully acknowledge is super hard, right? Especially if you're not, if this is your first book or your first published book. Oftentimes it's very difficult to identify who you may write similarly to, or what have you, but that doesn't mean you don't try. And then two other caveats. One, if you can actually get a lot of blurbs that are solid, but I mean that are like, you know, this is brilliant, you know, or what have you, and it can fill like a page or two in the opening of a book, rock on, right? Because again, this goes back to, think about what your experience is when you walk into a bookstore. Think about what your experience is when you go and read the page of a book on Amazon or Target or what have you, right? A lot of times there's just a whole section, all that's not acknowledgments, that's all blurbs. And that's because someone, you know, they you know, had some cojones, and they went out and they just asked a bunch of people, right? So again, don't be afraid. And my third caveat is, understand, like, all my books that of stuff that I've written, they all have blurbs, and I think in both they have at least one, if not two pages of blurbs. But the only reason I even got them was because I asked. And in some cases, like the better known authors who gave blurbs, it was because they knew me. They had read some of my work previously in some capacity, like even if it was like an essay or a short story or, you know, what have you. And so, you know, a lot of times really well-known authors won't say yes because A, they don't have time, and B, they're not sure this is going to be worth their time, which is fair, right? Because if you knew that the number of times they're approached, it's like, holy moly. So whatever can get you over that hump to, you know, put it out there. But like, I want to say at least 50% of the authors I approached said, Lisa, I love you, I just don't have time, or, you know, whatever the case may be. And again, to Ben's point, I was like, dude, it's a win, you know? So.
And if speaking of, like, if you have a short story that's maybe it's from a collection of short stories and you're looking for a blurb for your collection, and a journal picks up one of your stories or an excerpt from your novel even, and the journal prints it, go back to the novel and say, can you give me a blurb for the whole thing? And because they read pieces of it. Honestly, you don't need to read the whole thing to do a blurb. And sometimes it gets in the way anyway. You get a flavor for it from the excerpt, and you can do the blurb, or they can do the blurb from just that piece that they published. So don't forget that the journal publishers, the people behind the journal, like the book enough to publish an excerpt from it or a short story from it, then ask them. But again, it comes down to ask them. That's the best advice we can give is ask them.
Ask them. Exactly. Suzanne Craig Whitetalk says, as a Canadian author, I have a lot of blurbs from Canadian writers, but should I be looking for more from American writers? I would say no. So to clarify, so we're with IPG, and IPG actually distributes across the US, Canada, Europe, and Asia, believe it or not. So I'd say the majority of our sales are US, Canada, and I've seen UK, and I've seen Spain. So, again, it goes back to, it's more so about, is it a solid blurb? Right? Like, is it someone just blabbers on and on and on for like a paragraph, and then at the end of it, they finally say, and this is fabulous, right? Or do they just get right to it and say, this is completely groundbreaking, boom, right? Like that's what you want. You want the ones that they're going to just nail it for you. So, make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I think it doesn't matter. I think a lot of names and authors are recognizable, whether they're Canadian or American. So I think anything you can get is great. It works.
Agreed.
And it gives that the person writing the blurb a chance to say author of.
Yes.
And sometimes author of carries a lot more weight no matter where you're from.
Yeah.
This is somebody who has been published and written a book, and now they're doing a blurb for somebody, maybe first book or a lesser known writer coming out, and to say author of, that carries weight in itself. So I wouldn't look for nationality. I would look for the talent. If you like them as a writer, and your book may or may not even be comparable to their books, but you like them as the writer, then ask them and not worry about the nationality at all.
Actually, you know what? That is such an excellent point. A lot of authors, especially if they have a new book coming out soon, they'll say yes to writing a blurb because it's another way that they get to promote themselves and their work. And it doesn't, when it says author of, it doesn't say Canadian author of blah, blah, blah. It just says, author of whatever. Yeah. So yeah, don't take yourself out of the running.
Yeah. Because I think it's basically an international community. You may think locally and say, well, it's just my local regional group of people I know, but the writing of books is an international community, and there's a connection there that you can tap into.
Oh, 100%. Like we have been blessed to have several actually internationally known authors who've come to us with their, just truly incredible projects. So, yeah, again, don't take yourself out of the running, So cool. Wow. Great question.
Yeah.
Ben, how about you? Have you gotten anything?
Well, a discussion came up this week about the progression of a story, and from the point of view of one of the characters over a 7-year span, you want to make sure that the voice changes. Because the 9-year-old girl is not going to talk like a 16-year-old girl, or a 7-year-old is not going to talk like a 14-year-old. So you've got to make sure you change the way it sounds, you know, the way the character is experiencing the story is going to change because she's older now. And and I ask an author, make sure that you are hearing the change in the voice, because it's got to. And it's a story that I didn't even notice that the time was skipping years until suddenly it was 7 years later, but the character still sounded the same. That's what brought it up. So the lot of experience has gone on, but the little girl still sounds like she did on page 1. And now it's 7 years later. It's not page 1 anymore. What is she thinking, and how does she sound when she's thinking it? You know, so it's an ongoing discussion for the piece I'm working on editing, but I think it's important. It's an important aspect of telling the story because the characters change.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Wow, great point.
It's one of those that you don't think about till you see it and you come across it. Say, yeah, we should probably make her older.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a great point. I had a book I was judging for IBPA, and it was I think the character was supposed to be the characters sounded like they were in their like 50s, and it was supposed to be a teenager. And I was like, and then I went and I looked up the author's bio, and I was like, I'll just leave you there with that. And I just pointed out, like, I don't think a teenager would talk this way. You may want to go back and look up how, you know, individuals speak during that period of time. And there are certain references in terms of context, it simply wouldn't make any sense, because like we didn't have iPads back then, right? Or you know, like those kinds of things that may seem little, but you know, like at our last Ask Us Anything, I made an Adam 12 reference, right? I will make you a bet. The only people who understood what the heck I was talking about were Peter, Cecilia, myself, and then maybe 1 or 2 people who were watching at the time. But if you're not at least in your, well, I don't even know if you were in your early 40s, you'd get it. I think you have to be at least in your like mid to late 40s to understand that reference. But, you know, like things like that, because you don't think about it, because it's like, well, of course, right? If you came from that background, but you know, otherwise that's like, huh? I don't understand. So sorry. That
brings up especially if it's not a period piece, you know, if it's written out in the 70s, okay, you've got to use the TV shows from the 70s, and you've got to use the references from the 70s. But if it's just a narration of, oh yeah, that's like 1 Adam 12,
right?
And so but it's a balance between those obscure references that add flavor. They definitely can add flavor to your storytelling, but is the reader going to pick up on the obscure reference? And are they going to take the time to look it up? Do they need to? Should they? And because that's the author's responsibility. Just take my word for it, this adds flavor. Or whether you know about it or not, if you want to know about it, look it up. But the action of, and actually in the same work that I'm working on, we had a discussion about chewing gum. And when did chewing gum become like more popular? And this is in the 40s, and it really, before World War II, or in the early days of World War II in Europe, it wasn't necessarily what kids used. You know, they might have had licorice or a piece of hard candy, but chewing gum was not, it wasn't as prevalent as it would be after the Americans went over smacking their chewing gum, their Wrigley's. But and a lot of things were like that. In another memoir, it was the history of M&Ms. And if you're gonna mention M&Ms, you've got to know the history of were they popular then? Were they out then? And so we looked it up, and M&Ms came from they were given in the K rations for soldiers in a little cardboard tube. They got M&Ms, and they were so popular after the war. Of course, they took off as M&Ms, the civilian brand. But you got to look up those things. Those are little details that will frustrate some readers to no end. Say, no, you can't have M&Ms now. They weren't made yet.
Yeah, 100. Absolutely.
Yeah. And cars are the same way. Sometimes a reference to a car, and it's like just as a quick example, the 1957 Impala. There was no such thing as a 1957 Impala. The Impala didn't come out till 58. And some readers going to catch it, and they're going to put your book down because you didn't do the homework to make it clear. And say the Bel Air was top of the line in 57. In 58, that was the 50th anniversary of Chevrolet. They had the Impala come out. And so you've got to do that homework, or you lose your credibility, if nothing else.
No, that's accurate. Absolutely. Peter!
Hello. Sorry I was late. My computer said, I don't want to hear you talk. So I'm like, okay. It took me 45 minutes to convince my computer to let me talk. So I finally figured it out.
Awesome.
I love coming on like an M&M announcement because that was, without context, I'm like, this is a good place to start.
Yeah.
But actually makes me think of something in the book that I just finished editing. Yay, just finished it.
Woo!
References to current famous people.
Oh.
To this song or this movie actor, that movie actor. I'm like, in 5 years, in 10 years, nobody's going to know who these people are. And if we want this novel to be timeless or at least somewhat relevant within the next, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, you have to focus on the physical characteristics as opposed to, well, he looked like Robert Redford. Well, there's not a kid today under the age of 25 who knows who Robert Redford is. So that was my whole argument. I have to convince her to go, like, show us characteristics. I mean, you could show us personal factoids about these actors and how they roll over into the characters in your novel, but give us the facts, give us the physical description so we know exactly what these people are. They have a rough description of what these people look like, because nobody's going to know the stars in a few years. So
That's fair.
Yeah.
It's totally fair. So the question, I've gotten a few questions, but they're more on the business side. So, why don't I, so one question that kept coming up over and over and over again from the same author, her book recently came out and she wanted to know if, we could put it on sale for 99 cents. And she didn't realize, I don't think she realized that, first she would ask me if we could put it on sale for the audiobook on sale for 99 cents. And then she would ask me if we could put the ebook on sale for 99 cents. And then she would ask me if we could put the paperback on sale for 99 cents. And I think she thought figured if I said no to one, then that meant, let me just try something else. Well, now let me try this. Well, now let me try this. Well, now let me try this. But it was like cyclical, right? So like if I said, well, this isn't possible because of blah, then she would go back to one of the other forms and say, well, you said no to this, so now will you say yes to this? And I finally got her on the phone because I was like, okay, this has to stop. Because my answers aren't changing, but I think it's because she didn't understand what the answers meant, if that makes sense, right? All she knew is she wanted her book to be on sale during a specific period. So let's talk about that. So Rodney says, hey, Rodney. So how books get put on sale when you're working with a small, mid-size, or large publisher? How it works is it depends on what their deals are with whoever manufactures and primarily distributes that book in whatever form, right? So, an example, we're with IPG, the second largest distributor in North America and Canada, which is fabulous, right? It means our books are available everywhere. The way that IPG has deals with different manufacturers, different retailers rather, right? So a retailer could be Amazon or Barnes and Noble or Target or whatever. For ebook, we can go in and ask, hey, I want to have this ebook or that ebook or whatever put on sale for this period of time for this amount of money. And as long as we submit it at least, usually it's 2 to 3 weeks in advance, it's not a problem, right? And again, so ebook, keep that's all that references. That's only ebook. Okay. Paperback. The way paperback sales work. So when a paperback is sold to a retailer, it is sold at what would at wholesale, right? And the definition of wholesale is that it's that reduction in that sticker price that you see on the book. Now, most of the time, that sticker price is going to be at least 50% off that retail price, the cover price, which in today's market is typically $21.99 in the US. Sometimes it's $19.99. It just depends. It's just that costs for printing and everything, distribution in the last year have just exploded. So, prices have gone up. So when that retailer, let's say it's Amazon, when they buy the book, let's say for 50% off, $20, what that means is, in essence, Amazon has just bought the book for $10, right? 50% off, $20. So Amazon has just bought your book for $10. And the distributor gets a certain percentage of that $10. $10, not $20, $10. And there's a whole bunch of other taxes and charges that are just taken off of that, such as the manufacturing costs, right? Such as shipping costs. All of that is actually taken off the $10. So if you go to your publisher and you say, I want to have my paperback on sale for $5 off or $10 off, the reality is, because that retailer in essence has purchased your book for whatever that percentage off is, that your publisher has no control in that. Nor does your distributor, because again, it was sold in essence to that retailer for that reduced wholesale price. Now, additional caveat to that. If you go to a large publisher, most of them will have a deal where, I don't know if it's all books, but I'd say the majority of the books, when they are sold to a retailer, the retailer cannot return the book. For small and mid-sized presses, retailers can return the books. And when the book is returned, that means that if Amazon bought it for $10, they're getting that $10 back. And that means that $10 comes out of whatever you made off of that book. Okay. So that's So far, we've covered ebook and paperback. The same that I said for paperback applies to hardback. Just putting that out there, right? Audiobook. Can you arrange for a reduction to be made to an audiobook? Again, that goes back to what was the deal the publisher and the distributor made to put the book out. We use ACX, which means that all of our audiobooks are available on Apple, Amazon, and a third, which of course I'm not going to remember right now. So because of that, we do not have any control over any kind of reduction to the audiobook. Now that said, we used to actually go with major distributors, major publishers of audiobooks. And honestly, even back then, we had even less control. So as far as I'm aware, the only individuals that had control in terms of any kind of price reduction for audiobook was the actual retailer. So that's why when you see an audiobook for sale on Amazon, it may not be on sale on Barnes and Noble, and it may not be for sale on, your iPhone, right? It's because they're all different retailers. They all have different groups. They all have different agreements with whoever it is they bought the book from. And that is what will dictate, who has control over what associated with each book and each format. Make sense? Or did I just confuse like everyone on the planet?
No, it's complicated, but it made sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Because I literally got her on the phone and she was like, I'm sorry if I made you mad. I'm like, that is not what I'm trying to tell you. I am just trying to get you to understand how it works so that you stop emailing me going, but I really want this to happen. And I'm like, so would I, but tough noogies, it's not in my control. And nor is it in anyone's, other than, you have to look at how, the deals are made. So, cool. So any you guys want to piggyback on anything or any other like questions?
Well, there's times when Amazon will offer you as the author a chance to run a special free giveaway of your books. And of course you pay for it. But if it is a way for you to invest in your work getting out there. And so there's those kind of deals that if you've got the means and the interest in doing that, you may say, well, I'm not sure who will find it, but usually if it's a free book, it will be found. There's some readers out there that are, well, I won't say cheap, but it goes on sale before it goes on me.
Well, and like I used to love using Goodreads and using there's another one that they'll run deals for your book, and part of the deal, running the deal, is that it also gets listed as must reads for thrillers or must reads for whatever. And I want to say like 4 or 5 years ago it worked really, really well, but I want to say maybe 3 years ago I just didn't see the same kind of return, so we stopped using it.
Yeah.
So that's another one. Just ask your friends, like ask around to find out what kind of experience folks have had more recently to see if it's worth your time.
Along the lines of getting some reach for your book, some things that I get asked: should you pay for reviews? Is that something that you should pay for reviews of your book?
So
You're making us think.
So this is going to be another one of those, like, all right, how reviews work. if you want to see your book advance, like on Amazon, and get named among the most read or best read or whatever, the way Amazon's algorithms work, it's not about a whole bunch of people putting in a review at the same time. It's actually about you making it being listed in a category where there may be a lesser number of people listed in that category, and you having a consistent number of reviews and or a consistent number of sales over a period of time. That is what actually will increase your rating on Amazon. So, I mean, I've never paid for reviews before because I have never been sure, because I understood how Amazon's algorithms work, as well as Barnes and Nobles and all that. I really wasn't sure if it would be worth the time.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more beneficial to like send out an advanced review copy to like your friends and family and say, hey, can you do me a favor and check this out and submit a review on, these platforms. I would really appreciate it. I think that's more worth your time.
Yeah. There are a lot of people who reach out to authors and offer reviews if you're willing to pay for them. So it's something that does come up.
Yeah, I get about 3 or 4 of those a week.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And although it has the pace has slowed down a little bit, I think because I've talked to all of them. Every book review offer out there has emailed me, and I have conversations with them.
I've had a word with them.
Yeah.
No, my favorites are all the ones that get my name wrong.
Yeah.
Oh.
And even when I politely, I'm like, "Hi, this is Lisa, not Karen," right? And they still don't catch, like, oh, I completely effed up. Like, they'll keep coming back, and I'm like, okay, this is weird, but sure.
Well, they'll say, I came across your work, and I'm really interested in helping you out. And ask them, well, what work did you come across?
Yeah.
And they tell you the wrong book. Oh, sorry, not my book. Then they'll say, well, that's because your name isn't out there properly. You need my help.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot of good conversations with them. And it usually ends when I say, well, what's your guarantee?
Mm.
Well, we can't guarantee you anything. But we cash the check.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the big one.
And there's a range from, I've seen $50 range to up to $15,000 that they're asking for to promote your book, and anywhere in between. And then they'll say, well, but we understand authors' needs. So if you, what would you like to pay? Sliding scale. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So be careful. It's kind of an honor to get the email, but it's really it's going to a lot of people, and weigh it out.
I had one recently. I didn't know quite what help he was going to give me, but he sounded like he had read my book, like the whole thing, and loved it. Like it sounded personalized. It sounded like he understood the structure of it. He understood everything, and he said, "No pressure, no pitch. Just I can tell you how to get more visibility on Amazon." And I was like, eventually there will be a pitch, right? I mean, eventually there will be an exchange of money. So I didn't follow up, but it was the first one where it really sounded like he read my book. I'm like, well, you can leave a review then, that's free.
Yeah.
But I didn't respond. No, I know it could be fun, but also, yeah, I don't have time.
The real good ones are the ones that are AI generated. When you reply to the email that came from AI, it starts to have a conversation with it. Well, thank you for letting me know that it wasn't your book. I've done a little more research and I found your book.
Yes, I've gotten lots of those.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Brian.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Actually, complete side note, I recently sent out the the lifetime sales reports to our authors. So I am going to be setting up, if you are one of our authors and you are watching this, I am going to be setting up some workshops to kind of walk through them, because I know, similar to what I just described on how to get a book on sale, those sales reports can be so incredibly confusing, because there are all these just like little bits of complexity with each different format. So yeah, look out for that. And to the author who I'm going to remain anonymous, thank you so much for agreeing to allow me to use your specific dashboard, because we walked through it together, and this individual is allowing me to anonymously use this as like an example for fellow authors. So it's like real data, right? And so it won't, so they'll be able to associate it with their own work more directly, if that makes sense. So yeah, because one of the authors was like, can't you do an ask me anything about it? And I thought, is that really appropriate? Like, I don't know, like that kind of information we should have on a live stream that's global, right? Like, even if all the real data is actually anonymous, I'd rather have it in a more of a focused, intimate setting, targeted to our authors. So yeah. Cool. Wow, we have less than 15 minutes left. So Peter, have you gotten anything like any interesting questions or topics?
No, I'm actually reviewing my comments and edits in the novel that I just finished to send it to the author, who's excited to receive it. So the novel is jam-packed with images and themes, and I'm just really excited to send it back to her to see what her comments are, or see what her next version is. So
cool.
Problem is, it took me a long time to get to finish it, and now going from comment to comment, edit to edit, I'm on page 8. So it's just like, and I spent 2 hours doing it today. So there are a lot of comments in there. So I got to go through this, because I always re-review what I said to make sure it makes sense. So it's gonna take me a little bit of time to get it to the author, but the big part's done, and the writing is really good, and it gets better. The thing is that, as I discovered when I finished the novel, is the last 2 paragraphs are freaking incredible. I mean, the tension's there, the pace is there, the characters are there, the action is there. And I'm like, where was this throughout the beginning 18 paragraphs of the novel? So it's like her biggest challenge is going to be translate what you know you can do, what you've proven you could do, to the previous part of the novel. And this thing is going to be gangbusters. I mean, it'll be spectacular. So it's like, I couldn't stop reading it. I mean, I had to stop myself to make an edit, but it's like, I just wanted to keep reading. It's that good.
Good.
So yeah, so she has it in her. So I just have to get her to coax her to do it for the rest of the novel as well. So I'm excited. I've got high hopes for it.
Yeah.
That's like, I had a couple of books that were fabulous. I was judging for IBPA's new I think it's like New Voice Award or something like that. And exactly what you just described, Peter. I'm gonna, like, the first couple of chapters, like, the pace wasn't there yet. They hadn't really developed their voice yet. But like, when I went and I cracked open to page 200, all of a sudden, exactly, there it is. So it was like, for me, when I judge, awards like that, so much of it is doing exactly what you just described. It's just pointing out, like, okay, look, you're on the right path, but thematically, here are some things you want to look at, and here are some examples of, where you nailed it versus now apply it over here,
Right. Mm-hmm. But it's so nice to know that they can do that kind of writing, that they can write that well. They instinctively know it when they take themselves and thinking out of the situation. So
Exactly. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
And so much of it too is a lot of new writers have that challenge, right? Because they don't understand pacing yet. They just know that they hit a point where all of a sudden it becomes like magic,
Mm-hmm.
it just flows out of them. But they don't know how they got there, So you got to point out to them, well, this, I'm telling you, this is how you got that voice.
Exactly.
Yep.
And see where this section where the pace really moves. See how short the sentences are. See how impactful they are. Then you get to a point where you need a little space, and your little breather. Lengthen the sentences. See how this goes, okay? And then bam, back to the short sentences. Bang, bang, bang. So there's a very good craft to it. So it's like imparting that and getting them to understand is really fun.
Mm-hmm. I had one recently where there's a lot of energy in the beginning and a lot at the end, and the whole middle was mostly like very slow paced. So right now we're working on kind of scattering that story, pushing it throughout, sprinkling it in and cutting other things so that it's distributed, and the pace moves a little bit quickly, a little bit more. Well, it's quicker, and she revised. It's much quicker now. It is amazing. Now we're adding in those pieces where we need to slow down a little bit. So we can add some of it back in, so that, we can kind of linger in some spots before we get back into the pace of things. So it's a lot of fun. It's fun to see.
Mm-hmm. It's really cool to see the novel as it progresses through the different drafts. And see the final draft as opposed to the first draft. It's like, and they workshopped the heck out of the first draft. They showed it to everybody they could think of, and even people who didn't want to read it. But by the final draft, I mean, it's awesome.
And, it's interesting you mentioned the workshop the heck out of it, because myself and one of our editors recently met with one of our authors, and there were some parts that I don't want to say it was like, well, why did you elect to do this? Because it like slows it down too much, or whatever the case may be. And she was like, oh, well, when I workshopped it, they told me I needed it. And it was, and myself and the editor were like, well, okay, but I want you to think about what is it you're trying to accomplish, right? Like, this isn't about what your fellow workshopper had to say. It's about what you are trying to do. And that's what you need to focus on. And that's what you need to support, not somebody else's vision for this, but your vision for it. And not if you have a vision for it, then you also want to make sure that you communicate that to your editor, right? And so that your editor can support you in accomplishing whatever that vision is. Or if it's an unrealistic vision, they can tell you, I'm not sure that the most realistic, but we could do this, or whatever the case may be. So just that even if you don't understand what your consistency is, by talking it through with your editor, oftentimes you can find out what it is, and they can help you and support you in that. So.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, and I know I looked distracted. It was because I wanted to make sure that I mentioned, guys, don't forget, we still have our Kickstarter running. It ends in only 6 days. So it actually ends on June 1st. So it ends on Monday. And there are some phenomenal options there. I mean, you can be mentored by a New York Times bestseller. You can be mentored by the author who has been literally called by you. I believe it was USA Today, the Stephen King of New Zealand, right? I mean, she's absolutely brilliant. You can have editing sessions with one of our core acquisition editors. You can get a swag bag, basically, of some of our killer books. So, don't miss this opportunity. There really is some fantastic offerings. And just go click on that Kickstarter link, check it out. And I couldn't be prouder of what we have there. So that was it. Okay, go.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah. So it's grain of salt because it's the author's book. I mean, that's why I always say I ask questions, I make comments, but it's the author's choice whether to accept them or not. I mean, they don't even have to make the argument, say this is the way I want it. And the same goes for workshop comments. I mean, be confident enough in your own writing and your own work to know how you want to write it, how you want to craft it, how you want the final story to look, to take those comments in and go, okay, well, that makes sense. That makes sense. This one doesn't quite fit right with me. So I'm going to go past it and see what I can find or see what I can create in my next draft. So everything is just a suggestion. Nobody says you have to do this because nobody can write like you. You're the only one who can. So trust yourself, trust your writing, and trust your words.
And trust your editor as well, by the way.
Well, we know what we're doing, so.
Well, yeah, agreed. And then, I mean, we've already had several award winners, several books named Best of the Year, and the only reason I put that out there is every once in a while we'll have an author who will say, well, I don't want to change this, and damn you, I'm right. And when we try to, we ask, well, like, but what are you trying to accomplish? And they don't actually know. And we know it doesn't work. Right. And we know this isn't something that, a reader's going to go for. If we turn around and say, you know what, then it's probably not a good fit. Like, well, you probably could have guessed it based on the fact that, you kept going back and forth with your editor. But
right.
99.9% of the time, I'd say our writers really partner with our editors and vice versa. So
I had a situation, it was a short story, and it was a scene in the story in a antique shop, and the article that the character was looking at had a history that had meaning, but it needed a little bit more detail. So I told the author, I get it. I know where it is, but your reader may not. You've got to give that article, I think it was a pair of gloves, the meaning that you had. And the author said, I knew it. I had this workshop and they said, take that out of there. And I said, no, you've got to put it in. So the editing process is more one-on-one and more genuine than sometimes you workshop to a group and you get into a group think of, no, you got to take that out. It doesn't work for me, so it doesn't work for anybody. And they may miss the meaning of like that pair of gloves and the meaning in that antique shop that came with a story inside the story that added to the story. And so sometimes it's just validation of what the author already knows in that conversation, but it is a relationship and a one-on-one conversation, hopefully built on trust. Trust me.
And to that point as well, I mean, I've known, huge award-winning best-selling authors that they actually end up changing publishers because, their editor will move on and they're assigned to a new editor who just doesn't get it, right? They just don't think that way, And, I keep going to, that's okay, but don't be surprised at the result. And again, it goes, if you're new and you're checking out new publishers and new editors who are new to you, don't be shy and don't be afraid to ask about, like who have you worked with or what kind of, or talk to authors that they've worked with in the past, right? Because you want to make sure this is going to be a good fit. In theory, this shouldn't just be a one-off occurrence. In theory, you should be working together on an ongoing basis moving forward. You know? So, yeah. Wow, excellent points. All right, we have almost 10 seconds left. So with that, oh my gosh, such incredible questions, such great topics. Again, guys, if you're watching this and you're watching the recording, don't be shy. Go ahead, put your comments into the comment section of whatever venue you're watching this, and we will absolutely love to respond to it in our next session. So with that, as always, love you guys. Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you, Rodney. And have a fantabulous rest of your week. So, ciao.